with your discussion of springtime in Australia, and that's why
Yes.
they're
Shut up, birds.
that's why everyone will have some nice bird music. We'll have a little bird background track for this
Yeah,
session.
yeah. A little lorikeet action for you.
Okay. We look forward to
Maybe
forward
we've
to
got a
hearing that.
kookaburra who likes to sit on our back porch now.
Wow, that sounds like an advanced bird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're predators, so they get up and they sit and watch, look over, and look for things to kill. So
It's like every creature in Australia.
yes,
I think there was some Twitter discussion about understanding the food cycle?
chain in Australia. Yeah. I mean, apparently, I thought kookaburras were all nice and everything, but somebody told me that they other birds don't care for them so much. They're opportunistic predators.
All right,
They've been known to eat something now and then.
I don't know, Matt. We need to get you maybe a stronger noise gate for future bird recordings. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I think
it's
nice, but yeah,
the magpies were kicking in. If you hear something that sounds like a cuckoo clock.
Now what's the
no? There is like is that just like that little? That's the bird sound though.
Yeah, there's that. That's probably lorikeets, which are like a large parakeet.
Lorikeets.
Lorikeets, yeah, they're
lorikeets.
green and red and yellow. They're pretty cool.
And what's that one? The whistling one.
I'm not sure what that one is. Because there's another one. The magpies are these big black and white birds, and they make this weird like kind of sound, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Okay. All right. Well, it's good you're recording from a jungle. That's perfect podcast setup. That's that is just the absolute better. If you could add a dog, that would be fantastic.
Well, he's locked in the house, and
okay. Well, the dog could just show up.
The dog's known to show up at any time.
Hey, but everyone should know the dog's okay, right? Because the dog, like last we heard, the dog ate super glue. That was in the show last week. So.
He just took one bite,
so he's all right. He made it. Everybody should feel okay. He's all right.
Well, I was going to say maybe that's why he's so quiet. Is his mouth glued shut?
I'm not going to say he's all right, but he made it.
Well, he's not. He didn't have any traumatic injury that required medical attention.
It's like my youngest is like, "You love the dog, right?" I was like, "He's not a good dog." He's like, "Answer the question."
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'd shut the door, but it's so freaking hot.
I don't know, Matt. I think you may. I mean, you may need a sacrifice here. We can hear it. We'll do it. I mean,
or I could just mute myself.
You can. All right, ride the mute button. Your decision.
I think it evokes the wonderful smells of a pet store. That's what I'm saying.
It does. It kind of does have a pet store vibe to it a little bit. Like
pet store vibe. That's what I'm shooting for here.
Yeah, I think that's.
That was a great band, Pet Store Vibe. Yeah.
All right, you guys. You want to get going, or Matt said you got a little hard stop, or?
Yeah, we should. Luckily, there wasn't any AWS news worth talking about, so.
I think, as usual, since Brandon was on the front row seat of AWS, you can summarize that.
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about that.
There's still stuff being announced, right? It's just like
like right now. So
yeah, according to Slack, it's kind of quiet.
I guess it is Thursday. I've lost track of what day it is. It's Thursday, and then Knative. Sure,
that's Matt's. I figured Matt would want to.
Is there some interesting story about it being donated versus not donated? Like,
I mean, we can talk about it in the show.
This is one of those things where I feel like there's some. I know I say this every now and then. There's some juicy, crazy, nutty story about Knative.
Well, Matt's on the inside. I mean, this is it. This is Matt's thing. He is the insider on that one.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
So
nice. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about those two things.
And then CEOs. Okay, someone takes over from Twitter.
CEOs. I'm worried.
I just feel like that's Greenfield. That's just always the Greenfield topic, right? Like I don't know. I think we have a lot of experience about CEOs taking over. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Do we think it's a good idea? What do they do? Or we can skip it, just sort of like it's this easy topic, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's perfect. I had something great in mind to talk about at the beginning, and then I took a little nap and I forgot.
All right.
So now I need to.
How about
like a little distant,
the
Coach. I think
beneficial
you're
power of naps?
You're fading a little. I think you're just.
How's this? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I got the gain up
yeah.
a little bit. Now am I doing better?
Yeah,
Let's
now
see.
that's what I.
Am I in the 5 dB over 72 hertz?
Yeah.
Well, just look at your little green thing there, right? You can see it yourself, right? Just you're.
No, that's what I was like.
Yeah,
although
perfect.
it's a little.
You're in the
weird.
5 now.
Okay, it
At
says
least the
I'm
4.5. Before you were just getting 3. It's bad.
Okay,
Yeah.
What should I turn it up some more?
No,
How's
no,
that? That's good.
Your
wow.
voice is always good. I mean,
Man, Audio Hijack loves
if
you.
you could just read to me at night and just put me to bed, it'd be great.
Boy, that is nice to do that. What Harry Potter? Okay,
Harry Potter.
that's what people say around here. Harry Potter. All right, I'll have to make something up as I'm talking.
How's that any different?
I don't know. It's worked out pretty well so far. Okay. We have 2 ads. All right.
2 ads and a bird.
And
Bird, I tell you.
and
this
a new
bird's
ad
gonna-
read? Or do we have 3 ads or do we have?
No, we just have 2 today. We'll have 3 next week.
Whoa.
So we're in next week.
Man, do you want me to go shut that window?
Yes, I do. As the person that's going to edit this later, I want you to. Yes.
There's a dog now too.
Oh, I don't. A dog bark is easier than the repetitive bird. Actually, a dog bark is easy to you can lift it, or you can just work it in. Oh, that sounds so much better. Oh, jeez, I'm in my happy place now. It's great.
Oh, the lighting's all different.
1,000,000 times better. Thank you. And if you pass out for heat exhaustion, send me your wife's phone number so we can text her or something. To knock down the door.
Well, I did increase my fan, so hopefully that doesn't get picked up.
No, fan's good. I don't even hear that. I think I think your noise gate can get the fan. But I don't think your noise gate can survive a bird.
I mean, we all know if Matt Ray passes out for more than 30 seconds, insects will come eat him. So no need to alert
fight off
anyone.
the kookaburras, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, Coach A. Now we're ready, man.
I was watching some videos from the reInvent show floor. Just kind of someone walking around. It was that Corey Quinn guy. So, walking around in his freaky little face mask, doing things. And I was thinking I don't know if I'm ready to go back to a physical conference. I saw some pictures of the keynote room. Even people walking in, there's that thing, there'll be the gigantic keynote room, and there's the big curtains and the concrete floor that's dark, and you've got to walk through that small maze with the gigantic fans blowing the AC.
Oh, yeah.
It was just evoking all of those memories, and I don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine. I never really like going to big keynotes, anyways. As people may remember, I don't know if I invented it, but I feel like I pioneered and perfected the sitting in your hotel room watching the streaming keynote.
The master of the hallway track.
Yeah, it was great. Master of
hotel room
the
track.
bedroom track. Well, that doesn't sound right.
Whoa.
No.
Now we're gonna have to slap the adult label on the episode.
Now, this raises an interesting sub question. In a hotel room, I mean, it's all a bedroom unless you're getting really fancy, right? So you don't
gotta get the suite action. Yeah.
I guess that's why you call it a hotel room and not a bedroom, right? Did you say your room? Because it still has, as we would say, a bathroom, as Americans would. But
Yep.
I'm gonna have to
I don't
think
know.
about
You can
that.
still, right? I mean, there's still the kind of the lower end. What suites like Hilton Garden
yeah.
Inn, and what's the other one? I can't remember. The Marriott brand. I just forgot. So it shows you
Yeah.
how long I've traveled. So sometimes you get
been
the
a
nice
while.
little,
Yeah.
little
true.
fake room. I don't know, fake kitchen, fake family room kind of thing.
You get the bar that separates the kitchenette, the kitchen.
Yeah.
Area. They're usually not even kitchenettes. They're usually just full on kitchens.
But
It's
definitely not
always,
Vegas though.
surprising.
Typically Vegas, you're right. Vegas, all the Vegas hotels are pretty much just big rooms.
Yeah. Anyway,
unless you're the executive, and then you have the entertaining room, right?
Oh,
You're gonna have the big dining table, so you can have a sit down with your investors, or
yeah.
yeah.
You come up to my bedroom for a board meeting.
No. Usually you get a suite for that. Come up to my suite.
My suite, yes. Yeah. I've been upgraded to those rooms every now and then, but it's always when there's just like I'm staying one night somewhere. It's tragic. You get this big, gigantic room, and it's just like there's no.
And you're by yourself, right? It's one night by yourself. So it's like, okay, great. What am I gonna do with?
I guess run some laps.
I'm gonna sit here at the board table, and then in 5 minutes I'm gonna go over here to the bed
with your 3 different TVs in like different areas. You're like, okay, this is nice. I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Well, so I'm thinking I'm gonna, when it comes back to going to conferences, I'm gonna need some sort of like easing back into it. I don't know if I can just go to like a gigantic conference all at once. I think I might get overwhelmed and get sensory overload. So I'm gonna have to put together a strategy for like maybe I just like go to where the booths are, and I pretend that I'm gonna visit one booth and I don't actually go visit it, and then I leave. Right, just to kind of get a sense for it. And
well,
then,
maybe you could just start with like some executive briefings, some smaller, 10-person conferences.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. We'll go back to doing those executive dinners instead of doing them online. Yeah. Okay. So
or just go to conferences where like you said, just you go to one booth and you're done because you didn't really want to be there anyway. Maybe.
Well, maybe it's like sports. Like you almost have to play yourself back into the season, schedule some scrimmages. So it's like do some local events, maybe start with a local meetup, then maybe
some exhibition events.
Yeah. Then maybe like a 1-hour travel time to like a small regional conference for like a couple days, and then working your way all the way back to the full blown keynote. Right. So you put yourself on some kind of plan to like
maybe you could just find something in Amsterdam completely unrelated, like go drop into some Tony Robbins or something.
I think we put together a plan. I mean, this is where the cozy size of the Netherlands can come into play. You're right.
Yeah.
I can technically I don't live within Amsterdam right now. The little town I live in is surrounded by Amsterdam and a town named Demon, which isn't meant to be demonic. But so I can find something in Amsterdam, small conference, a meetup, just go there. Just I can pass by it, lock up my bike, look through the windows, and then come back home, right?
And then you're like, peace out. Didn't want to learn about JavaScript anyway. See,
there's that. And then I can find a conference in like Utrecht or like, maybe even Rotterdam. I can just go to that, like very small. And then eventually I can work up to like Antwerp or Brussels. And
you could just start RSVP to all the different meetups. And then, you get there, you look around, grab a slice of pizza and leave.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, that's a good plan. I think that'll help me.
I'm having this view of like you're kind of like having your own like a Fight Club moment where the narrator of Fight Club like goes to different self-help groups because it like calms him down, right? So, and I feel like you're kind of working. You're kind of getting that vibe going there, Kotek.
Yeah, you need a meatloaf for your meetups.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like you need, like you'll have to like maybe write a book about your experiences there. All right.
Hilarious. Meatloaf for your meetups.
All right.
I just
see I'll try to lift it, so I cut myself out there. All right, so 14 minutes. All right. Where would everybody go to like learn something new about all these new AWS announcements? Can anyone think of any place you would go to learn?
You're gonna need credentials for them, so.
All right. Well, that was a setup for someone to say CBT Nuggets, but I'll just go ahead and I'll say it anyway. There it is. Everyone go visit CBT Nuggets and tell them Software Defined Talk sent you.
Yeah, I wonder if they do like flash trainings. That would be fun. Live from the booth. We've just had an announcement about AWS something. And we've taken.
No, I do think I was talking to them and some other training. It is like I think this is like a huge. I mean, this is a super busy time for them, right? Because I think they do kind of try to snap into action pretty fast.
Well, and they need to because I bet people like they're like, oh, you know what? Over the Christmas break, I'm going to learn some new skills, go back and start looking for a new job in January.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely, I'm sure it's a busy time.
Mm-hmm. All right. I kind of miss the birds, Matt Ray. Can you set up a recorder? Like after we're done here, open the window and
we'll just leave my camera on, just let it stream.
Yeah, you could be one of those like study YouTubers where you just like hang out with Matt Ray while he checks email.
The problem was yesterday I had all my windows open and had a nice breeze going, the birds, and then the house behind us has a pool and the kids were out there and they started screaming, "Dad! Dad!" And I'm like, "I'm not your dad, Dad!"
Wow.
Well, because as a dad, when you hear that, you assume it's for you. And I was like, my kids aren't yelling at him. They're not yelling at me.
Yeah.
Nat has like a great, like you have a really good like shriek kind of voice. So Cote sent me a quick aside. Cote has sent me some ad reads for next week, and of course, Cote, you added your own sound effects, Cote, which were fantastic. Of course, so I've cut those out. I'm like, one day I'm gonna need
fantastic. So I cut them out.
Well, no. I mean, I meant I made them as like little audio files. I'm like, I'm going to use this ever. And so I was like collecting those and I was putting them next to the other audio file I have is Matt's back call from like episode, I don't know, 200.
I still have that in P3.
And it's like, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. But I got like all these crazy sounds going. So
do you have your soundboard hooked up?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could, and then so I'll try to get your dad. Maybe I'll try to grab that like dad clip as like
don't
I don't know
forget
what
about my magpie from earlier.
We have a tremendous amount of useless audio. Like, I mean, I have like gigs and gigs of useless audio at this point. So I have almost a Synology full of just pointless.
Don't call our
audio.
podcast gigs of useless audio.
I mean, it's just a lot. It's just like I'm afraid. I mean, I'm like, one day I'm gonna need this. We're gonna put it in some great like.
You're gonna be like that shock jock of podcasts who has the.
I don't know. I'm just gonna give it to some NPR editor. Be like, make this into serial. Here it is. Here's a couple hundred hours of nonsense conversation. Go.
Oh, anyway, we need an intern.
Well, it's gonna be a lot more than an intern. There's a lot of stuff to go through. All right, Cote, pick it up whenever you're ready.
Well, speaking of giant shows, now I haven't done a very good job of following all the announcements from AWS reInvent. It looks like there was some, one, I think there was a storage expansion that you get for free. Good big networking traffic and stuff. How many months ago was this?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean the hoopla around it. So there was some less. It was the egress. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's still small.
There's some freer egress, and then you got some chips. You got I think you're flash trading in the clouds from what I've read.
Yeah, no, we had a nice as it's become an annual tradition. We had a nice group of people kind of jointly watching it in the Slack. So
yeah, it's nice waking up to that.
Always fun. It's a fun way to watch the keynote. Actually, I think it's sort of like I don't know. I find it keeps me more engaged, which is I know sort of like opposite, but. I will say, so a couple, I think we made some predictions last week, so we can kind of go over them. One, we didn't really make any prediction, but there was no house band. House band, there was house band. There was a guitarist, vocalist, and one drummer who opened the show, but there was no, as you recall, Jassy would like do a section and then throw it to the house band, and then he would then quote the lyric back and then use that as a segue. So that whole format was gone. So there was no house band. That was, this is the important stuff. It was all based around pathfinding. That was the metaphor of it. So they kind of used historical figures from the past, overcoming some type of challenge, like Florence Nightingale and others, to help like create a new path, and then they used that to essentially introduce many new topics. That was the whole. So it's a little bit more subdued, right? I mean, the Jassy and also Selipsky, or I always wonder if I'm saying his name right, Adam Selipsky, the CEO of AWS, like again, like I said many times on the show, Jassy's the first ballot Hall of Famer. So it's unrealistic that the person that was going to follow him was going to be as good. So, I mean, it's just a high bar. So I think he did a fine job, but it felt a lot more like your typical corporate keynote, which is not, I don't mean it as a slight. It's just sort of like, yeah, we've been there before, not quite as dynamic. Yeah. Very knowledgeable, but not Jassy level. Like, Jassy could go he could almost go to the source code on some of these services. Where Slepsky's clearly like getting the slides have been written for him. He's really prepared well, but he hasn't like he hasn't lived it, right? He has not absolutely lived it.
I called him, man. He's the Tim Cook to Steve Jobs, right? He's
right now, the thing you called, I think you kind of maybe characterized it best, man. You kind of said that you thought it would be like, wouldn't be much, kind of the same thing, not a lot of changes. And other than some minor format stuff, it was sort of like almost exactly the same. Now,
but he tossed it, he sent it off to his sidekicks more.
No, he did not do that. There were nobody, okay. That was one thing we missed. No one other than himself from AWS spoke. There were 4 customers that spoke, but he did all the presentations. So there was no, let me bring in the technical person, right? So all those people have their own keynotes. So that was, I was a little surprised by that. So he kind of went through the whole thing. Now, I think the general vibe from the Slack and from like just kind of reading other people's opinions about it was like there weren't that many announcements in comparison to before, right? Like, normally it's like every few minutes an entire company is being disrupted because AWS has just like announced their entire product portfolio. There just wasn't a lot of that this time. There's a lot of like sustaining enhancements to existing services and a few new things. But I even kind of took a poll. Like, I didn't feel like in the past so many times you think like some company will be really upset because AWS just announced like their whole feature set. I didn't, for the most part, I didn't feel like it that happened. There was a little talk about Elasticsearch, right? But that's already been happened. So that was just kind of like,
that ship sailed. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it, but the only people, it's a lot of continuing disruption, right? You've got Elasticsearch, obviously, more expansions into database stuff, which they're coming after Oracle, continuing. More Graviton 3 coming after Intel, giving the AMI, the EC2 machine instances are now getting suffixes to indicate the CPU type. So you got an I for Intel, an A for AMD, and N for if it's got NVIDIA, and G for Graviton for ARM. So they continued to disrupt Intel, but it's also just like an expansion of what they do. Now that you pointed out, I didn't see anybody who's like, oh, there went our startup, right?
No. And I think, the other thing that was kind of just, interesting about the whole thing was, they did do the one thing that he did that was almost the trademark of the AWS is something like they did a little history of like where they came from. I think it's like 15 years and did a little highlight reel. But then, as Jassy did every year, they open up with something like still today only, I think he quoted something like Gartner says only 5% of the workloads have transitioned to the cloud, right? And it's like, I almost need to go back and like look, but it feels like every year they say the same number. It's just like a few percentages. And I think at some point, I don't know. For me, it's just kind of like, well, like if every year we go to the show and it's still just 5% or less or very small, like are we missing something? Or like, are these, because do we believe that there's going to be this avalanche? Like we're going to see double-digit migrations, which would be great for me, honestly. So I'm okay with that. But I'm just saying, like, are we going to see, like, do we ever expect Jassy to be like, well, now we're at 30% to the cloud, like, or whatever, and not Jassy, I guess Slepsky. Like, it's just the same refrain. It's like still early days, only 5% have moved to the cloud, and it's like, I don't know. At some point, I'm like, almost, if they keep saying that, to me, it's almost like, well, it's not going to move to the cloud in a big way. So I don't know, Coach. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I feel like maybe it's like we've told that story. Maybe I've just heard that story too many times, or, at some point that story kind of gets worn out. It's almost an indication of failure rather than opportunity.
Well, that is a good point. 5% seems pretty low. Maybe, it's I don't know which one's a numerator and a denominacon, but like maybe the number of workloads just keeps growing and growing, and we can't keep pace. But yeah. I mean, 5%, huh? That is strange. I mean, wasn't there, what I saw in the limited chatter that I allow to see myself to be exposed to, and I don't mean the Salesforce thing, is like, it seems like there was a lot of modernization talk. Was that a popular topic, moving things over, or not?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I mean, they announced some new mainframe migration capabilities. So that's something like I care about a little bit. And so that was, and that's a consistent theme is, AWS is always, offering up new tools and new ways to do migrations and modernization, which makes sense. And that's sort of like the keynote ended, just kind of skip to that. Like there was no, normally there's like, I like to say the Jassy preamble lecture, like, like 5 ways to move to the cloud and like what you need to do. That was not, that was completely absent. But at the end, there was a like call to action for agility, right? That was what the pitch was, if you move to the cloud, you're going to become a pathfinder, and becoming a pathfinder, I'm paraphrasing, of course, right? You're going to make your organization more agile. You'll be able to do more, and if you will, service your customers better. And that was sort of the only part of that. Like this, and that was sort of it was more like a call to action than it was, like Jassy sort of like, here's what you should be doing. I think Shalevsky was more, here's what you could do, and this is what the benefit that you would do there. But it does. I mean, I don't know. I thought about that too. It's like, well, maybe workloads keep changing, but at some point, I guess it's just kind of back to the conversation we have all the time. It's like, I don't know, I just don't know. Like if we're 15 years into this and we're at 5% workloads, like in 15 years, like what do we think we'll be at? And that the quote or the phrase Jassy used a lot last year that I didn't hear in this keynote was in the fullness of time, right? That was sort of like in the fullness of time. And I think we joked about it last year. It was like, well, when you say that, you can kind of just, anything can go in there. In the fullness of time, insert any event and it'll eventually happen, I guess. So I didn't hear that, but I just kind of like, that was one of the things I left with, like, well, like what is the next horizon? Is it 15 more years? We think everything's gonna be in the cloud. And if so, we got to start saying like, and not everything will ever be there, but like say, will it be 80%? Will we see a massive acceleration? And I don't know. I mean, I kind of come back to like, we haven't seen it yet. There's no step function in accelerating to the cloud, which may be like, it's either too early, it just hasn't happened, or it's not going to accelerate like the way that we think it will at some point.
I mean, it's a lot of workloads have already been moved, and when you complain about, small amounts of growth on, what are they doing? 60 billion a year, some crazy amount like that. It's like, it's hard to make those percentages increase, and even 5% growth is what, 3 billion, a year. And so that means you can continue to have phenomenal growth as a volume, without having large percentages. And, maybe there's not going to be this massive uptick in percentages growing, but it's not going the other way, obviously. Right. So,
it's a great
in the fullness of time, it's going to be this, asymptotic thing that, eventually, the long tail is going to be on premises and data centers of, non-cloud stuff. But, the most of the volume under the curve is going to be public cloud.
We got to track down this Gartner's 5% thing. That I think that would be a great thing to see, like where this what that chart looks like, because that would be. I mean, I think just to model it out to your point, Brandon. If we're always about to see the avalanche of everything moving to the public cloud, I don't think people even say public cloud anymore, but whatever. Then there is something a little weird going on there, and weird in what way? I don't really know. Maybe in the analysis of it, because it does seem like 5% is a strange low number. But maybe there's a chart.
I mean, that's compound interest, right?
Well, no, I think you can look at it 2 ways. I think you're right. I think 5% growth, whatever, in this kind of thing, it's always going to be a great market. It's a great business to be in. Don't get me wrong. I mean, AWS is going to grow, I don't know, for a long time. I just think the implication that like everything will be in the public cloud very soon. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like that's sort of like the tone that AWS, these keynotes are giving off. It's like, I'm starting to like pull back from that. I'm like, I expect next year to say that the number will be likely to be very close, be the same, 5%, 6%, right? I don't expect. And so that's fine. I think that's okay. I think it's just, and I think, one of the announcements that they really just announced that it was out of beta was AWS Outpost. So they got the small form factors now. And I think this is more maybe, this will be kind of another backdoor way to like do the growth is, as you remember, AWS Outpost is essentially just a way to put a server for AWS, functionality in your data centers. Well, now they've got them in the small form factors. And that seems to be kind of the thing that, that will be kind of an interesting do. If they start to sell more and more of those, then it kind of just goes to your data center and you're just using AWS. So you can call that a migration or whatever you want, but it's still like, it's still just you running a server. And I think my guess is that business will continue to grow over time, which, again, it's just more like a hybrid type cloud model, which I think is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just maybe not the vision that some of the people think about.
Hybrid. I was thinking about this recently, and I think now there's a difference between a hybrid cloud and a multi-cloud, right? Is that the same thing? How is that? How's that?
Well, I would just find it.
How's
like in
that
this case,
panning out?
The hybrid cloud would be like if I take an Outpost, I put it in my data center, right? Sort of like I'm running it both on premise as well as I'm using AWS. And then multi-cloud would be the next step where I hook up GCP and AWS, and maybe I have them all running, and I have some on-premise devices all working with that. So that would be the multi-cloud kind of thing.
Let me see if I can phrase this nuanced enough. A hybrid cloud might be just one cloud that's in two different places or composed of different things, whereas multi-cloud is multiple clouds working with each other,
right?
Like distinctly different ones. But if you had multiple clouds from the same brand, that may not be multi-cloud. That might be
probably just be
separate
cloud.
VPCs.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's one of these things we can go down a rat hole and argue about that. Like people argue about this at length for days. So it's less important probably the exact terminology. Just sort of like everybody that knows is talking about the same thing.
Yeah, this reminds me when I was every now and then I take a little nap before recording here, and this thought that popped into my head was like, I wonder, like when Gartner first came out with its platform as a service analysis, they broke it in, I think it still maybe is, but they broke it into like 7 or 8 categories. And, I feel like why would you do that? But then I thought, well, probably because there were many distinct things that they didn't want to compare, like apples to bananas. So they felt the need to make these categories. But boy, it was really distracting. And in the same way that, you've got all your, I think we're okay with the multi-cloud hybrid cloud thing. That's kind of sussed out there. Although I never hear the phrase hybrid cloud anymore. That's always fun.
You're hanging with the wrong crowds.
That's right.
The wrong clouds.
The other thing, I guess, the other number I thought was interesting, there's over 200 different AWS services now, and there are over 475 instance types so it's like, wow, it's just like, I mean, I don't keep a running count, but I was just like, the instance counts kind of shocked me a little bit. I was like, wow, like this is, and so, this is more, I saw, Corey Quinn make this point. It's like, I guess the great strength of AWS will be, there will be, I don't know, 300 services soon enough, I'm sure. Right. And they're all being built out, and there'll probably be another 400 instance types at some point, but that is both the strength and the weakness. Right. And it's like, the opportunity remains, for our ongoing discussion of like, whoever invents the Heroku replacement or the, just like, push the code and it all works, right? Like someone making sense of like the 200 plus services and several hundred instance types, and like providing less choice, but like, hey, just do it like this, do it the easy way. I think that sits out there as the white whale of this of all of IT. It's like someone figure this out, because it is like, I mean, it's just like even the instance types is like, man, just to like read. I guess you don't have to read them all, but just to kind of navigate them all takes a lot of time. So there's a lot in there.
Why do I care about Intel versus AMD?
Right, and you kind of
when I'm running, mediums, smalls.
I mean, to your credit, you kind of inadvertently sort of explained it to everyone. That's why the names, like, that's why they end up with a weird, like the whole thing. It's like you're going through. It's like the processor, the manufacturer, the architecture, and that's why, like, when you start and you look at it, if you don't know what it is, I guess it's like looking at car models. If no one's explained it to you, you're like, I don't like, what is this gibberish, right? And then
it's worse. It's way worse than car models.
Yeah, so you have to really like decode. You have to like, you really do almost have to have the decoder ring to figure out like what am I looking for, and then of course you get into like, well, what is this going to cost me, and then that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, and based off of the way the chip companies work, you could just plot out, like, at this point in time, AWS EC2 will have 500 different machine types. And 2023 they will hit 550. In 2024, just because it's like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, they all have fairly regular cycles, and you just know it's coming. And shocker, Graviton 4. 18 months out, here it comes. And so, it's,
Yeah,
But
so
the
kind of
thing
coming
is,
back to it, like using AWS requires you to consume the 200 services, or at least know what you want, and
get
then
the
as well
decoder
as
ring. Yeah.
know what the and then of course know the instance types you want, and then we can get into the database stuff, right? Because there was a lot of talk about
Oh my gosh.
a whole
Yeah.
section on that about kind of the data lakes, the kind of Snowflake
But
world, and it's like you have to know a lot. I mean, just to navigate, just to like buy what you want requires a lot of study.
But do you think that is a detractor? Do you think people are like, AWS is too complicated, I'm going to go with Azure because they only have 90 services?
No, I don't think. I think all three. It's almost. I don't know if this analogy holds up, but I feel like this is like a Web 1.0 kind of thing. It's like, hey, everyone's like, we should put our magazine online, and they just put the giant PDF online, right? And I feel like you could kind of make the argument of like, we have taken the data center, everything that's in the data center is now going into GCP, Azure, and AWS, and they're all right. Like customers have asked for all of this stuff, right? That's
There's
what they
a
want.
customer who wants private 5G.
And that's what it is. But you look at it and you're like, just like you look at that PDF, you're like, and then somebody showed you like hypertext and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like I can just read the article and I can click the article. Like there's a lot of advantages to, like when you get away from, I don't know if that analogy holds up, but I think that's the like that just remains out there. Someone figuring this out is like, wait a minute. It's just like, you don't need all of this stuff. Here's a better, simpler, easier way to do it. I'll make a lot of these choices for you, but don't worry. I'm not going to lock you in. It's not going to cost you money, right? These are all the things that may or may not come to fruition.
And that's why
out there.
Every reInvent, Amazon's like, here's an easier way to do no code, right? They're like, oh, but what about those 7 other ones you already had? They're like, don't worry, here's another way. Do you like Heroku? Did you like Heroku in 2017? How about in 2015? How about in 2012? We got each of those. Did you like it when we called it Netlify? Here, we'll put it over here. And they're just going to duplicate all those efforts. And, you can never say, well, Amazon didn't have what I wanted.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, and it's kind of like, maybe we'll use the S curve, right? As the analogy. It's like, we're just at that point where it's just a lot of incremental adding services. There isn't like a lot of, these aren't new ways to do it. These are just kind of like a different or maybe better way to do it the same way, right? And like somebody, I used to joke, like, remember what data center and DCOS? I love that. I was like, oh yeah, there's like an operating system and it all just works. Like I like that metaphor, of course. Yeah. Although that company, it didn't really work out for them, but I'm just like, yeah, that still sits out there. Someone still can crack the code, right? And to some extent, I know this is your block a little bit, Cote. Tanzu, OpenShift, right? I mean, those are opinionated ways to do some stuff, right? So that there is, there
somewhat. Yeah.
There are some options, like, those continue to be very valid options. But when you just take in the totality of AWS, you're like, well, there could be a lot of simplification. Someone may figure it out.
I think there's a missed opportunity for a new certification. If you can get at 60% of identifying what AWS sources or different AWS services are, you get a certification.
Yeah. Well, I will give them. So they did a couple, the other kind of prediction or this discussion we had is like, well, do they move up and actually try to offer some business applications? And the one that they did do was our Goldman Sachs and AWS have like partnered on essentially some type of like stock market analysis data cloud, where essentially you can, if you have ideas or you want to like figure out what kind of stock trades to do and you want to do some research, you can basically take the Goldman Sachs financial data on AWS. And you like, it's sort of just hand wavy. I can't say I saw it. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but you could build up, all the information you need to figure out like how to do a trade and do some type of trade. So that was, a very niche kind of investment banking use case. So, but I was like, okay, that's interesting. And of course, our good friend, Matt Levine over at Bloomberg, he actually covered it in his newsletter. So I was like, first, whoa, if he's going to start writing about AWS, we're going to start writing about CDOs or some other obscure financial information. But he did a good job. He even kind of made something I think was relevant to us is like, he said, well, if you're doing this high frequency trading, what they could do is actually, instead of charging so everyone actually has a rack in like this, in the same data center as the NASDAQ, for example, they could essentially just let you buy a virtual machine, like a virtual machine that's on the same server. Right. And then I was like, oh no, Matt, containers like that's what we can add to it. It's like, maybe I just write my algorithms in a container, and then I just, if you will, I'm just renting space on the same server where my great logic could run. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But again, it was very niche. It wasn't like they're going to take over the industry by any ways. It was more like, if you're interested, if you're an investment banker and you're doing this kind of work, it's probably interesting to you. For everyone else, it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Look out,
Yeah,
Bloomberg.
that his coverage of this had a very typical for him sort of arc that basically ended like, yeah, sure. That seems to be you've reached the apex of his praise when he ends a piece on like smoke him if you got him. He's all into it. Well, I want to pull run down. I run out of metaphors, but like there's I think y'all are developing, at least in my mind, an interesting theory here, an interesting thought experiment, which is to say, several of my favorite topics. Let's just get them out of I'm going to get them out of the bag over here. All right, now I've got them. And one, the lean startup. Let's put that on the table, right? Now, lean startup thinking is all about like, let's explore what it is people will want to buy that it is we can produce. That was a weird way of summarizing it, but like come up with a thing that people want to buy and experimentally do that. And then it's very product centric. And then let's talk. When then we got what we talk about here ostensibly, the let's call it the enterprise infrastructure market. Some people might call it cloud nowadays, and in that sense, it basically means public cloud minus SaaS, more or less. And it seems like if you were to take lean startup thinking and apply it to this market, you would end up with Heroku, right? Or you would end up with Opinions or whatever. You would end up with a value proposition for software that was basically like complexity is very difficult, and you want to have a smaller amount of things that are well defined, and that isn't just a whole bunch of gibberish, right? You wouldn't put it that way, but after having been around in this market since maybe 1995 or so, I'm starting to get the sense that the enterprise infrastructure market does not want simplicity. Now, I don't know if that's a conscious choice that it makes, or it's kind of like we'd have to go talk with the systems people to know what the phrase for this is. I don't know if that is a outcome of the system in place, or if it's beneficial or bad, but like, yeah, I mean, y'all will have to help me, but I feel like every single time collectively, and it's mostly vendors and sometimes open source projects now that do it, but every single time in the enterprise infrastructure like market that we try to simplify things, it's almost like we breathe into simplification, and then like some sort of like monster in a movie, we just get bigger and bigger by absorbing all of that, and it gets more and more complex, right?
Well, yeah.
And we often like, and I don't know who we is here, but we often like kind of make fun of and badmouth complexity. I mean, the platypus guy, that's his whole, not his whole, that's a significant what's the word? Not gig, gag. Shtick. There you go. That he has about AWS, but like, I don't know. I mean, I just want to run with the theory that maybe like, no, it needs to be a lot of stuff. That's what this market wants. And we can't let this whole lean startup thinking and MVPs like play a mind trick on us, because that thinking was derived from someone who was trying to make a metaverse in like 2009 or something, if I remember. But like, or even earlier. But it's that type of thinking is all based on like there's humans, of course, involved in this infrastructure market. But that thinking is largely derived from consumer retail-ish, not retail buying, but like kind of in the sense of retail banking, right? Whatever that means there. But, end users, individuals, consumers doing things, what people call tech companies now get, like all your social companies. Even social companies are incredibly complex. I mean, we get all like uppity about Twitter not having innovated forever, but I don't know. That's simple. So It seems like actually when it comes to infrastructure stuff, as much complexity and options and choices that you can give people as possible, of course not to absurdity, is probably the better product management strategy to have. It seems like the one that still lives in the end.
It's a repeating cycle, right? You come up with something new and simple that takes away all the painful complexity of what came before. And then as you continue to add bells and whistles to capture the edge cases, your new simple thing slowly looks like it sure has a lot of options to it, and it's
Yeah,
complicated. And you know what? It's harder to support because now there are all those options that you supported. And the next thing that comes down the pipeline, oh, it's simpler. So
yeah,
it's just this it's the cycle of enterprise software. And we see it with monitoring tools especially, but we see it with the conversion of data centers, physical machines, to VMs, to containers, to serverless. We keep coming up with these next plateaus of simplification, but once you get to that plateaus, there were all these cases that you didn't cover. So now we're doing containers on AS400 and Windows build containers, and that sounds horrible, but you know what? Those things were horrible when they were on virtual machines.
I guess maybe it's like I don't know the word. I'm going to use complexity for whatever it is we're talking about here. There might be something better, but like complexity is a word like legacy software or lock-in, right? And these three phrases basically are pejorative phrases, and you only label something that when you don't like it anymore. Right, like you don't really like as I like to quip, right? Like no one, if you only call your software legacy software if you're afraid to change it. Otherwise, you just call it your software, right? Like no,
Right.
you don't call it. So one, like it's indicative of like there's something up with your software, and like when it comes to lock-in, no one's like, oh man, I really love this experience that I have with my software. It runs great. It's making us tons of money. We're totally locked into it. Right? Like lock-in is only really used when you want to stop doing things some way. Like otherwise it's totally fine. And like similarly, as you're kind of pointing out, if you have complexity and what you're doing is no longer satisfying you, or it seems like to some extent it's become old and doesn't evolve anymore. Like you have complexity that you have aged complexity, right? Youthful complexity is always great. There's new stuff coming around. It works out well, but like
it's just like these new abstractions or these new simplifications, eventually they get harder and harder to support. And you start thinking, do I want to continue to maintain this or replace it? And that maintenance versus replacement is what drives our evolution in software and infrastructure.
So I think what people don't want is they don't want legacy complexity. If it's like just great, if they have lots of options and capabilities. There you go. Oh. Capabilities is the positive version of complexity. Everyone wants capabilities, but they don't want complexity. And it just depends like whether you call a large amount of options to perform the business value that you need. I phrase that incorrectly, but that's capabilities. We want a lot of capabilities to achieve business outcomes. You always want that. Or you could say like, all this complexity that we have is really holding us back from achieving our business outcomes. But it could be the same quantity of things that you have. It's just a matter of if they allow you to achieve something or not. And I don't know. So we gotta analyze things on. I think that's a fourth angle. I forget what the first three were, but we gotta consider that. I mean, I think people just want to have a lot of choices and not a limited set of them. That seems to happen cyclically.
All right, too many choices. I like it. So let's see what time is this. 48. All right. All right. And everyone go see our friends at Strong DM. Make sure you can secure your environment and make sure your friends you tell them your friends at Software Defined Talk sent you.
How many more minutes do you have, Matt Ray?
The meeting I postponed started 2 minutes ago.
Oh no! All right.
Well, do you want to go now, Matt?
No. I already told him. I told him I'm going to be running late.
All right. So. Okay. You can leave, but that's fine.
No,
all right.
It's just one person. Yeah.
Oh, well, of course. I don't know why we even discussed it then. One person.
No, I have a call with him every day now. So.
Oh, wow. That sounds terrible. Or
There we
great.
go. Stuff to do. Stuff to do.
They call that a work spouse, right? Anyways, I don't know. Okay. Well, there was also just to briefly mention it because I know that we're all interested. There was the Knative group.
Yeah.
They applied to become an incubating project in the CNCF music factory, as I like to say, which I think
news.
which I think it's always fun to ponder, like the status of Knative if it's not already part of a group, because it seems to come up a lot, and I guess it's an independent. It's on is that Sub Pop independent label? I don't know my metaphors. What works out there?
Getting distributed by Elektra.
Oh yes, Island or something. But now that's been around for a couple of years.
It has.
So
it has.
What's the deal with like
What's the
Knative
deal?
being on its own for a while and now it's going to the CNCF? Like, give us just a brief summary of like what's this journey been like?
So the journey,
for the Knative project.
Yeah, I mean, long time ago in internet time, Google announced that they had a new project called Knative, and people were like, "Hey, that's exciting. Are you going to give it to the CNCF like you did with Kubernetes?" And Google said, "I don't know what we're going to do." And we started to hear rumors. Well before my days being involved in the scene. We probably covered this 2 years ago. Rumors that there were salespeople within Google who were upset that they were giving away this Kubernetes stuff and they didn't have anything to hold on to, and we gave away the cow and the milk and whatever
The bucket.
whatever that metaphor is. They gave away the dairy and now it's running everywhere. And so there was this tension of like, well, what are you going to do with Knative? And they never gave it to another. They didn't give it to the Linux Foundation. They didn't give it to Apache. It just kind of sat in this limbo. And Google continued to own the trademarks. And so there was this hesitation in some circles to adopt it, and that probably hurt. Honestly, it probably hurt some of the adoption of Knative, because Knative also, when it was announced, was kind of the end of a lot of alternatives. Obviously serverless is a big deal, and there were lots of serverless projects happening on Kubernetes, but Knative kind of disrupted a lot of that without going to completion. And so now we finally have our closure, if you will. Google has very graciously offered to sign the project over to the CNCF. It's offered up for incubation, even though it's already 1.0. It's already running in production a lot of places, which will include the trademarks. So hopefully in a short amount of time, the project will be accepted into the CNCF and eventually graduate out of incubation, because it has all the requirements for incubation, right? It's a stable project. It's got multiple contributors from multiple companies. It's got customers. It's a full-fledged, healthy open source project. It just didn't have the umbrella of the CNCF yet.
At open source foundations, they should have you got your incubation, but they should have an immigration track. That's basically like it's a fully formed
the
thing,
fast track,
and it just wants to get in here, right? Because I forget other examples. There's been many projects over the past couple of decades, especially at the ASF, where they have to go through incubation to do this, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like,
right?
People have been using that for years.
Yeah. Well, that'll be. I mean, it's I poke at Knative every now and then. It seems like the cleaned up the confusion of what they did earlier. I know I'm repeating myself, just for people, the 2 listeners we have that haven't listened to everything we ever say, just so that they know. But like, it seems nice, and I just want to add as my standard, maybe it's not standard, but it should be, is that like, I mean, I feel like there's a heuristic, dear listeners, you can use, which is like anytime there's some discussion of open source and the word trademark comes up, you just be like, there's some fucking bullshit happening. Just like once the word trademark gets thrown around, it's just like, oh,
you're like, whoa. Who let the businesses into this open source stuff?
This is some kind of shenanigans going on in the background and people smiling, and I'm not, and I just historically, anytime trademark comes up, it's always just nonsense. It would be a bold move if there were more trademarkless open source projects out there. I feel like that would be a strident, political is the wrong word. That would be a strident cultural statement if open source people were just like, fuck trademarks. Like, we're just going at it. Like, we don't need to worry about this kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
business wise, it would be terrible.
There, right? Yeah, it doesn't get adopted because you're like, hey, I've got this great idea, and someone's like, great idea, huh? And
I think
call it.
You know, it's a very cynical sort of position, which I don't know if I genuinely like 100% believe it, but it's almost like, you know, if you didn't have trademarks, it would be terrible business wise. But I think the point of that is that, like, it's always important in the open source world to very quickly get to what the business side of things are, because otherwise you're going to be into weird shenanigans at some point. That's a fun word to use, huh? I should use it more. Is that a phrase or a word? We can look that up later when we're done recording here. Well, that's great to hear. It'll be fun to see what goes on there. I need to finish reading that great Knative book that I started reading a couple months ago. It was only a month or so ago. It was very it's very funny. Which one? Some guy with a French name wrote it. I forget what his name is, but he's a good author. So, do we have any bureaucracy this week, Brandon?
Just a few things. I want to thank Professor Jeremy for writing in. So he has, for several years now, he always takes a poll in his class. Who would like a software-defined talk sticker? And then he tells me how many he needs. So I've sent him a whole batch of stickers. He actually told me, though, that it turns out the students today, he says they don't like to put stickers on the M1. So it wasn't as many as that we had in the past. So it was good nonetheless to hear from them. So if you'd like a sticker, all you have to do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. Be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And also for the true old school OG listeners of Software Defined Talk in the Slack, there was some talk that people may want some more t-shirts. So I don't know. I mean, that's like we attempted to do some merch before, but if there's enough interest and people are into it, I think maybe we could find a way to do another run of t-shirts. So if you're interested, hit me up in the Slack. Let me know if you'd actually, I don't know if you'd buy one. If you want one, all I really want to do is get a sense of like how many people want, and maybe we can do another limited run of t-shirts. I don't know. We'll change up the color. We'll do something. We'll get the graphics and marketing team on it. So let me know. Find me in the Slack. Let me know what you want to have.
Wow, that'd be fun if we had new t-shirts. And then are we going to have an NFT? I saw someone posted that there's 3 people flying from space to planet Adidas. And so I went to go research what these 3 things were, and I went down a hole of weirdness, and it was very nice. All these people writing about, and the crypto stuff are all very optimistic, and they write a bunch of good stuff. And I didn't once read that Gandhian thing of like people laughing at you and accepting you, and then whatever else happens next, which was just very heartening that didn't come up.
There are, I don't know, the Buffalo Bills, someone, we won't talk about sports too much, but someone in the Slack put it out. The Buffalo Bills are like giving all the fans like a free NFT. So I don't know, maybe, I need to figure out how to make an NFT, and then we should why not? We'll put one out there. Like,
oh man,
we'll figure it out. We'll have to like learn what it is and what we'll do with it, but sure.
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could make one without having to pay anything? Can't
we just do some SDT pogs?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's another thing people can. I don't know. If you have a suggestion of like what we should make and for NFT for Software Defined Talk, we'll do it. Or better yet, if you just want to do it and give it to me, then I'll just that would be even more fantastic. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Man, flying monkeys. That's good stuff. Well, there's some conferences coming up. So there's that conference, January 17th to 20th in Round Rock. We'll be doing a live recording there on one of the days. I forget which one. It's in my calendar, so don't worry. There's also DevOps Day Chicago, the 2022. It's not going to be, in the few remaining weeks of this year. The CFP is open. It'll close on January 31st. I should look at that one. That's a nice conference. I'll see what dates it's at. Also, there's DevOps Days Birmingham in Alabama. That CFP closes on January 31st as well. Whoa! So you better prioritize your talk.
Coach, you would never do it. Some people may submit the same talk twice. I'm not saying you would do that, But I'm just saying, that's it's like the common application for college Matt was referring to. It's the common CFP application. Maybe that's what's happening there.
Yeah, well, that is a secrets of frequent speakers is only have a couple of talks that you give each year.
And we'll just get DevOps Day Chicago. That's the actual event is May 10th. So if you actually want to go to it and not and then there it is. You have it. You have all the information now.
It'd be better than DevOps Day Chicago February 3rd. You probably don't want to be there in February 3rd.
And to be clear, none of these are practice conferences.
For me?
Not.
Yeah.
Well, Chicago's like one of the biggest ones, I think, isn't it? Or Minnesota. I don't know. I thought they were both very, very big as I recall.
Yeah. So, all sorts of conferences there. You should go check those out. So, you should join us in our Slack. People write about conferences, events. We go over there's a whole channel dedicated to cataloging the news and things. As Brandon mentioned earlier, every time there's a big industry keynote thing, like the whatever was going on this week, people will be live slacking that. Is that right? Whatever. But just go to softwaredefinedtalk.com and you can click on the Slack link to join that. And of course, we stream stuff to Twitch and Twitter and to the ear holes you're probably listening to us right now. So with that, Brandon, what do you have to recommend this week?
My recommendation is new podcast from The Ringer, and it's hosted by Derek Thompson, who wrote for The Atlantic. And the episode I really like this week is, Omicron, right? That's made a lot of the news. I thought it was a very informed take. He did a really good interview about how to think about these variants and kind of what questions to be asking yourself. So probably like everyone, a lot to know, a lot to keep up to date on all the news there. So I like to be looking for good sources of information that's sort of measured in their explanations, if you will. So if you're looking for something like that, and I think Derek Thompson's, you wrote a lot in The Atlantic. I think a lot of people like this writing about the coronavirus over the years. So this is just another way to get some of the information, but he covers lots of other topics. That was just one of the topics this week. So check out Plain English if you're interested.
I'll have to go check that out. How about yourself, Matt Ray?
My pick this week, well, just to get the self-serving pick in there. I did interview Jock Chester for the author of the Knative in Action book that Cote was mentioning. I interviewed him for the Cloud Native AF podcast, so check that one out. But my pick this week is an episode of the Cautionary Tales podcast, The Wrong Tools Cost Lives, where we learned about the deadly cost of using Excel. So check that one out. It was quite good.
Oh, this is getting close to home right here. Okay. All right.
Well, I have a book recommendation that I haven't actually read, but I was talking with my son about it, and I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it because I think I need to. It might be fun to read it with him. I know very little about it. I'm gonna give you almost a word for word replay of his description of it, and I said, Cormac, tell me about this book you're reading. And he said, and then I said, Cormac, tell me about this book you're reading. And he said, it's called War Horse. And I said, well, what's it about? And he said, it's about horses. And I said, yeah, go on. And he said, horses in war. And then I asked him what page he's on. He's on page 17. So I think we got him to tell him a little bit more. I think it might be fiction or nonfiction, but I think I want to recommend. This seems like a good book. I like the title. It's about horses, maybe in war. We had a big discussion about were they coming to America or going from America for World War I. And so you could bring in some historic. Would that be deduction or reasoning? If you knew a little bit about.
I was about to say, is this the play and the movie of the same name?
Oh, I see. There's some follow-on recommendations. That's what we need to know. But I feel like there's a lot you could do pedantically here, right? Like if I were to ask you two, if there is a book called War Horse about horses in war, and there was a bunch of them that were going from one country to another in World War I, which country do you think they would be coming from and going to? Not country, but like are the horses going from Europe to America or from America to Europe? So you could use your reasoning.
I'm just thinking this is Black Stallion. I don't know. I feel like I feel like that has that. Does a boat sink or anything? That sounds like a.
Well, I'm gonna find out.
Right.
I recommend it though.
Okay. All right.
I recommend finding
Get back
out.
to us.
Maybe next week, if y'all remind me, you can ask for a follow-up. I'm looking at the Goodreads entry. It looks like the sequel to Warhorse, and you can replay the conversation I had with my son about the topic. The sequel is called Farm Boy. I wonder what that book's about.
Well, that's because Farm Boy was much better than Dead Horse.
Well, as always, this has been Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/332. You can find links to all of our recommendations, the conferences that I mentioned, other things like that. And tune in next week to see what happened to the Warhorse, and if it made it across, what it did, if its new name was Glue. Hopefully not. We'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Good job. Hopefully we did. What time is it? Do we make it? All right. Good job, Cote. Landed this plane right on time, man. So
It's only 156 pages. Man, I could.
Oh, you can
read
just
through
knock that
quick.
out. Is your son asking for like the audiobook?
No, I mean he's not asking for.
That'd be funny.
Nothing.
That's what
That would be that'd be a good offer. It's it's really hard to get like Alexa doing audiobook stuff. And I don't know. It's too hard. Have you ever looked at their family management stuff? It's like super weird.
All right, do you guys can you hear the music? All right, this is I don't know if it's licensed. I went to our moderator, Brian White Eagle. This is his SoundCloud channel right here.
Oh.
So this is one of his mixes. But I think I don't know. I don't know how much we can play, right, Cote? Because there's like the music gets recorded.
Restream has music that you can play.
I know, but like that's not produced by one of our listeners. That's just
that's true.
Restream,
Hey.
I wanted to so you should check out. We should have made that a recommendation. So I'll turn it off before we get the legal people. So there it is. So there's a whole SoundCloud channel of all his I don't know what is it called, mixes. So there you go. So everyone should check that out too.
It sounded good.
All right, well,
I felt like I was at a conference.
I think it is, but it is like I do think the music would be a good background track to our show, but like I think it's all like done professionally. So
Yeah.
we don't have any money to license any stuff. All right, man.
all
I know
right.
you got to go.
Apologize
We'll give
to
you an
you. Tell your meeting buddy that we're sorry that
You're sorry. Tell Gary
held you
that
back.
we wish him well.
That's a different call.
Okay. Sorry.
Later.
Bye.
All right, Cote. Hey, Cote, we got to work out the details. I was on the DAT conference, so we got to figure out what we're doing. I've been talking to Brett a little bit, so you and I
Sounds great.
trying to figure out like what kind of AV setup we. Do you have any audio gear you can bring? Do you still have your fancy recorder, that little one?
Oh, I got all sorts of stuff. Sure.
All right.
I
So
mean,
we
I think you have all the same things, Brandon.
I do. I may need a couple extra mics. I don't know. I got two. I got two mics, and we may need some.
I don't actually have mics, really.
All right. Well, you got that. Do you have that fancy?
Look, I'm opening it right now.
What is that? What is yours called? The audio.
I have this.
Yeah. So I may need you to bring that thing too. It's just
Okay.
we're gonna have if we don't have a few $1,000s of unnecessary audio equipment, we will have failed. So I did.
Also, look what just came in. I ordered some new. We got this. Of course, you're gonna buy that. But I was looking. I was trying to do research on like what are some good, for lack of a better phrase, businessy streamers. I still haven't found any, but I found some other things. And then I saw a review for the new Rode Go 2. I have the Rode Go 1.
Okay.
I love that. It's fantastic. Now this one.
What does it do? I can't like.
It's just like a lavalier. I mean,
lavalier mic. Okay.
Yeah, and you
Bring
can
that.
hook.
Yep, we're gonna need that.
You
Yep.
can hook a lav into it. But what's great about these, they're wireless, right? So you got a receiver you hook into your phone, and then you have one that you can stick a lav mic in or just use it there. But the reason that I bought these, all on my own, because expensing stuff at VMware is a nightmare.
Yep.
Which I don't even want to think about that. It's very depressing. Anyways, but this one, it actually records to the mic locally. You see, so you have a backup in case it messes up.
Now you're speaking my language. That's I will
it
bring
is
those too. So
it is darn near impossible to mess
Yeah.
up your audio
Well,
recording.
your coworker is going to be there. Is it Layla? Am I saying her
That's
name?
right.
All right.
That's
so
right.
I was thinking maybe we get her to like do a little segment with us, and then maybe also I was going
We'll
to
get all the people.
get. I know it's almost like I don't want to like I don't know. We'll have to figure out. I think if you get too many people, it becomes kind of like I was thinking like we get about like one guest per segment. That way we can kind of control it a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Not in the. I just meant separate recordings.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can do as many as we want. But I want to like I want to give the people something memorable, and maybe we'll bring T-shirts there. I don't know what color T-shirts. I don't know. You're kind of out on the T-shirt. You're kind of gone European, right? You're not really.
No, I wear T-shirts.
Are you a T-shirt person still?
I wear T-shirts. Just it's cold usually, so I'm like that's funny. Like I was just wearing.
All right, for the streamers, what color? I don't even know if I should like say what colors we had before because that would maybe lead the witnesses. I guess like, hey, if we printed another run of T-shirts, what color would you prefer? Please write in the please write a color in the chat. Black or gray? Okay, that seems like a very safe color. Anyone else? Cote, will you wear a black T-shirt? What color T-shirt are you wearing these days? I'm wearing the black one today, so you can see.
Oh yeah, I wear
orange. Orange is kind of our thing, though. Like I don't think anyone would wear it, but like I've kind of made orange the new secondary color to the brand.
I see that. It's right there.
So I mean,
I like my clothes. I like to. I don't like to be noticed, so I like to blend in to the environment around
gray
here.
And black, very.
So that if you want to be camouflaged in the Netherlands, you wear gray, and then people just feel like, oh, why is the sky falling onto the ground? And no one.
We could go tie dye. Tie dye would make sure no one ever wore it. I think we would never see it worn again, right? No, also, is there a machine learning algorithm like if you're ordering T-shirts? That like gives you like, hey, here are the sizes that you should do. Like it feels like that's something that has been figured out. Like given a random population of people, which I know this is not random, you would assume like 50% medium, 50% large. Like that's the other thing that's always very difficult with these T-shirts. I always feel like I'm disappointing people. They're like, you don't have my size. I'm like, well, sorry.
Yeah, that is difficult. Right. The microphones come with one of these little pouches. I just want to say like.
Is that for the lav mic or for the?
Yeah. For the little mics, but like, I mean, look here. Whoa, stuff's dropping. See, here they are, right? These little, and then here's a package.
Can we hook those to? Do they have an XLR, or do they have like a audio?
It's like I forget.
Out.
I forget if it's the. Yeah. You got to use like a headphone jack.
Okay, so we got one headphone. Okay, I got one headphone jack. We got that.
And I don't know if it's a TRRSSS or a TSSRRR or whatever.
So I got 4 XLRs, one headphone jack, one Bluetooth. You got your thing, 6, right? That's got another 6. So
I mean, for this whole conference, don't they have like some person all dressed in black?
They do, but like I feel like AV? We can't. I mean,
it's got a little flashlight. We can
definitely go and have a session if we want it recorded. I feel like we have to take it into our own hands, or at least have a plan. Can't show up and just assume someone's going to record it.
Okay. No, that's that. Oh, sure, that's cool.
Risk.
That's cool. I just would assume, you could. Well, I shouldn't say assume. That's you don't want to do that.
All right. Well, think about who else. Maybe you. If there's people, I was thinking Layla. I don't know, people we can bring up on stage since we're there. Kind of like maybe do like a little 10-15 minute segment with like 3 different people.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or people in the chat if you have ideas. Michael, I think you're going to be there. Maybe we bring him up on stage, right? Let him regale us with some knowledge about Birmingham. We just talk about Alabama football. That's what I want to do. That would really bring people in.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So
that was the last thing I was looking up. I don't forget how I came across this. I was trying to figure out what water polo is. That seems like.
Is that big in the Netherlands?
I don't even know how I ended up on that, but the thing is, I forget. I had another water polo encounter, and somehow I heard that it was like quite an old sport. And in fact, if you look at the Wikipedia entry on water polo, it says it was first played at the Olympics at the second Olympic game in 1902. So like water polo has been around for a long time, and I just I'm all the pictures I could see were these like super muscly people, and they always have the arm up with the ball.
Yeah, throwing the ball.
That's what they're doing. That's like. You'd
be in great shape If you played water polo, I mean, that seems like just a fantastic way to get in shape.
Now, does every sport have like the number one pose that you want for a picture?
I think so. I think generally, definitely the person like kind of leaping out of the water, arm extended, throwing the ball is 100% the water polo face.
And then for basketball, it's always someone jumping up midair, putting something in it.
Yeah, taking a jumper, jumping really high, maybe dunking.
Now, how about
right?
for football? American football.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what position, but like,
that's
throwing,
what I was going to predict. There's not one pose.
Yeah, I mean, but there's the classic quarterback throwing the ball. This deal. Yeah, that would be. There you go.
Okay.
What about speed skating? Are your kids getting into speed skating? Isn't that really big in the Netherlands? Like are they in orange tights with those really long ice skates?
My kids are like me. They're not into sports. They're like, nope, hard pass. Not interested.
Hard pass. Well, my son, he does not particularly like sports either. So I was like, well, I don't know. I guess this is how it goes. So we'll see. Yeah. So that I always ask myself, what would Nick Saban do? But my wife says that's the wrong question. Yeah, and I know you have no idea. I don't even know who that is. I know you have no idea. We'll just leave it there. Let's let everybody out. Like, for people that watch this later, they'll totally get it. A few people. Actually, we don't have a big sports following. The sports channel. The sports channel this week, I was talking to Matt. Matt was like, he gets up, obviously in the mornings. He's like, sports channel was the most active channel in Slack the other day because there's a lot of sports news. So it's quite funny.
Wow. I didn't even know there was a sports channel.
I know, exactly. Well, most people don't. I mean, there's only like three or four of us. We could just probably have a group text, but like we have a Slack channel, that's what it is, what it is. So
nice.
All right. Thanks for everyone hanging in. Thanks for Brian for providing us some music. I don't know, Brian. We'll have to work it out. Brian, you need to create a playlist of only public domain music, right? If it's just public domain music, that can become our official stream. If that even exists, I have no idea.
Well, there's also some services you can subscribe to, which are like $3 a month.
Coach, I'm trying to do interactive stream, like with the audience. I want the audience to
No. What I'm saying is one could subscribe to that and have other people go in and curate from that selection.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Brian. I guess anyone, if anyone can curate
he could do it. He could do it.
All right, anyone. But I think that's actually a good idea because I don't really know that. I feel like my musical tastes are just very bland. So I want someone else to do that. All right, and then if we do get t-shirts, sounds like gray overwhelming vote, which means I know a whole bunch of people won't like it, but that's fine. I like gray t-shirts myself. So all right, maybe we'll figure it out. We'll figure out some way to do it. And if we do, we'll get everyone here a free t-shirt. That seems like something we can swing these days with all of our advertising dollars.
Our lucre.
All right, Cote. Anything else you want to say to the streaming audience?
No.
All right.
Be safe out there and work on your poses.
Work on your poses. All right. Take care.